again, fibre is a great way to help our intestines detox because it actually binds to the toxins and helps carry them out, and it improves our transit time, so how quickly poop moves through our intestines and out. So yeah, it binds to it and helps it excrete it.
So your body's just trying everywhere it can to just get rid of toxins.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people, especially people that are really hard on themselves, I'm like, if you only knew how hard your body was working for you at every single second, like, because especially people that aren't so health conscious and really do pump their body full of garbage, it's like you're still standing, you're still alive, and that's because of these detoxification pathways. If you drank alcohol and you didn't have a liver to detox that for you, you would get poisoning and you would die. Because our skin's our biggest organ. We absorb everything that we put on our skin. And so it not only inhibits other detox pathways, but you're not able to detox because you're clogging them. You asked about deodorants as well. That's why we always want to look for an aluminium-free deodorant, because when we put on a normal deodorant like Rexona or something like that, it contains aluminium, which its purpose is to clog your pores so that you don't sweat.
Right.
So natural deodorants that don't contain aluminium, it's more just to mask the smell, but still allows you to detox by sweating. So it allows you to still sweat, but you just won't be as smelly. That's like with anything in our body. If we are putting too much attention somewhere, everything else is cut off. That's like with a lot of people who, when they're eating, but they're like on their phones or they're stressed out, it's like your energy is all here. It's all in your brain, and you need to have that rest and digest to allow that blood flow to circulate through your digestive system and not be anxious or having a fight with someone or just be all up in your head, because that just shuts off your digestive system. And then people have constipation and bloating and wind and all these other gut symptoms because they're not allowing the blood flow to their gut.
What does salt do to water? Well, why should people add salt? And can you add too much salt?
Like if you're someone that consumes like takeaway pizza and a lot of takeaway things that already contain a lot of salt, I would be like, I wouldn't do that. But someone like me or you that has like 3 home cooked meals a day, it's like I'm not adding excessive salt to the meal. So it's like absolutely add some salt to your water. And what salt does is it allows our body, our cells, to absorb that water so much better, to really hydrate your cells.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Stillness Everyday podcast. I've got Alicia back on the podcast today. We've now done 3 series on health and nutrition. Alicia's a clinical nutritionist. If you haven't listened to the first 3, I highly recommend it, where she will also explain a bit about her background. We've talked about male hormones, female hormones, how plastics affect your health, and today we are going to discuss what detoxing is and what it is not. So I'll pass it over to you, Alicia. What isn't detoxing? Let's start with that.
The word detoxing is thrown around so much within the wellness influencer kind of realm. I feel like any specific diet that labels itself as a detox diet, I feel like once I explain what detoxing is, then it'll be easier to be like, okay, well, that's actually not detoxing, because detoxing is something that our body does naturally for us. And on the polarity, there are then a lot of health people that will say, oh, our body detoxes by itself, you don't need to worry about it. But I feel like I stand in the middle, where I'm like, I see a lot of clients with poor detoxification, and I'll explain how that kind of presents. And then, and how we can better help our body, because there's detoxification pathways in our body, and there's 5 body systems that control detoxification in our body. And saying like, I'm just taking a green juice so I'm detoxing, like that's very basic. And it's like we can break that down further and create a deeper understanding of what detoxing actually is.
So the term, like when people do juice detoxes, are they actually detoxing?
I don't know. Like I'd love to hear what their claim is around how it's detoxing. So what detoxing actually is, it's our body breaking down toxins, so like environmental toxins, like from the food that we eat, everything that we consume, as well as like internal just toxic metabolites that our body produces. And detoxification is making those toxic chemicals less harmful and eliminating them from our body. So say we smoke a cigarette, then in our liver there is enzymes that then break down all the toxins to make it less harmful for your body, because otherwise smoking would literally just drop dead kill you. So there are so many organs that then make things less toxic as they come into our body. That's why people can eat Weet-Bix and not die, you know. So without our detoxification organs, which I will just quickly touch on and then we'll go into more detail, that is primarily our liver that deals with toxins, but then that also involves our kidneys, our intestines, our skin, our lymphatic system.
What happens when I, let's say, drink alcohol? And my body needs to, I suppose, get the poisons out of my body?
Yeah. So your liver we have phase 1 detoxification in our liver. So that is when the alcohol comes in, and phase 1 can either break it down and get rid of it, and it's like, okay, that's not a problem. But alcohol is a toxin, so therefore it breaks it down into what's called an intermediate, and then passes it on to phase 2 and goes, this is too much work for me, I'm going to pass it down to you. And then phase 2 breaks those toxins down so that they can be excreted from our body.
Phase 2?
Yeah.
But didn't you say there was 5 phases, or there's 5 ways we detox?
5 ways we detox, and then this is just within the liver. We have phase 1 and 2, detoxification.
Right. Okay, so the liver is under the most stress when you're detoxing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it just works the hardest, definitely. Yeah.
Right. So if you are poisoning your body constantly by drinking alcohol, would you be affecting your liver the most? You
would be hurting your liver, and that leads to liver cirrhosis, where it hardens and then it calcifies and then it stops functioning, and you need your liver to detox parts of it. And it's actually one of the only organs in our body that it can, like, a certain section of it can be cut away and then it regrows.
Really?
It's quite fun.
So what are some things, detouring a little bit, to make your liver the healthiest it can be?
In terms of like food as medicine, antioxidants and foods that are rich in anti-inflammatory properties, like green tea and brassica vegetables especially, which are like your really bright green ones, so like kale, silver beet, all those things, like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and then herbs like milk thistle and curcumin, which is the constituent from turmeric. But yeah, all of those beautiful.
What about eating liver? Is eating liver good for your liver?
If we talk about the premise that like heals like, and like that's a very basic term, but then liver has a lot of antioxidant properties in it that can aid in helping produce a healthy liver.
So if you had, like, just hypothetically, I'm an alcoholic, and I'm smashing my liver, but I'm also healing my liver at the same time with all the best things.
No, it's still having to work extremely hard. Like you want to work on eliminating those toxins first and foremost, because otherwise you can chuck whatever you want at it, but you can't really. It outweighs it.
Right. And then where does it go in phase 2? So after it leaves the liver, what's phase 2?
So phase 2 is within the liver, but then once it leaves the liver, it goes to the gallbladder, and then it is excreted in our feces or our urine.
Right. And those other 4, like?
Yeah, so our skin is a detoxification pathway. So when I'm trying to see if someone is detoxing properly, I'll say, like, when you're exercising, do you break a sweat? Because there are a lot of people who just don't sweat when they exercise. Like, they can be working extremely hard, but their detox pathways are not functioning properly, so they're just not sweating. Right. So that's a good way to think, like, oh, okay, are my organs working properly to make this happen? And then our intestines, obviously, so like our whole bowel, and again, fibre is a great way to help our intestines detox because it actually binds to the toxins and helps carry them out, and it improves our transit time, so how quickly poop moves through our intestines and out. So yeah, it binds to it and helps it excrete it. Our kidneys as well, they filter our urine and our blood, so when we have healthy kidney function, we are then able to, all those toxic metabolites can then bind the urine to be excreted. So if you're not urinating enough during the day, that's like inadequate detoxing. And that's why poop is so important as well. Like if someone's not pooping, you are not detoxing. All those toxins are just reabsorbing in your body, and that leads to, and I think we discussed this in a previous podcast, but that's what then leads to things like acne and bloating and abdominal pain and all this inflammation, because those toxins are just reabsorbing and circulating everywhere again if we're not pooping them out.
So that's 4. What's the 5th one?
Our lymphatic system. So we have lymph nodes all throughout our body, and you may notice that when you get sick, they swell up because all of our immune cells just target that area. So things like dry brushing and massaging our lymph nodes and just building our immunity in general is really great for our lymphatic system. It's fluid-based, so water is so important for detoxification. So if you don't like plain water, then you can opt for herbal teas, contribute to it, add something like lemon or lime or any other fruits you can to it to just, increase your water consumption as much as you can.
So why does your immune system target those areas, the lymphatic system?
Yeah, so your lymph nodes. So when there's an infection like present in your body, that infection just pulls in our lymph nodes. So for example, there's some here, and then our B cells come up and they're like, okay, do we recognize this pathogen or do we not? If it doesn't, it creates an immune reaction, and then our lymph nodes swell up, and it is like, okay, we need to target this and get rid of it. It's a natural response to an infection coming in, like those swelling up, but we do want to then focus on building our immunity to then, and by dry brushing and drinking heaps of water to create that fluidity and flush them out so that it is then excreted. That is what we want, rather than them just being swollen for like weeks on end. Like I have clients that are like, I'll get sick and my lymph nodes will still be swollen for weeks.
That used to happen to me years ago. And I used to think that I always had tonsillitis. It would just feel like it. It was just so swollen.
Yeah.
Back to the skin. If you're not sweating, is that contributed to things like cosmetics or like spraying deodorants on your body? Like, does that affect your skin's ability to detox?
Definitely. So makeup and things that we put on our skin, like we have pores that are open, and makeup clogs those pores, so then our body's not able to push out those toxins from sweating, or it does sweat but you've now opened those pores even further. So all of that, like, I don't know, if you're just going for your generic makeup that's just full of like synthetic chemicals and everything like that, then that is then being put into your system, into your circulation, and then you are, because our skin's our biggest organ, we absorb everything that we put on our skin, and so it not only inhibits other detox pathways, but you're not able to detox because you're clogging them. You asked about deodorants as well. That's why we always want to look for an aluminium-free deodorant, because when we put on a normal deodorant like Rexona or something like that, it contains aluminium, which its purpose is to clog your pores so that you don't sweat.
Right.
So natural deodorants that don't contain aluminium, it's more just to mask the smell, but still allows you to detox by sweating. So it allows you to still sweat, but you just won't be as smelly. What's
the idea? Are they trying to clog because your sweat smells?
No, they're trying to clog it because people don't like sweat marks and things like that. It's just a aesthetic thing.
Right. If you're someone who doesn't sweat because your skin's poorly detoxing, if you went in a sauna, what happens?
this is very common in people who are very underweight. When I was very sick and underweight, I would never sweat when I exercised. It didn't matter how hard I would exercise. All my organs were just shutting down. So obviously, like my liver, my kidneys, nothing was functioning the way it should. I was like so constipated. Like everything was just like shutting down. So I would go in a sauna and it would take me half an hour, 40 minutes to just like get the slightest bit of drip on me.
But that would be good for you? Like, if you're, like for someone who struggles to sweat, is a sauna a good thing?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Saunas are a great way to upregulate our body's detoxification pathways, especially through sweating. Yep.
And someone asked me about, it was a question that I got before this podcast about absorbing into through your feet, detoxing through your feet.
Yeah, well, that just kind of rolls into everything we touched on, like our skin. So, like, that's why we have to be so conscious with, like, the shoes that we wear and what we put on our feet, because if you're then not wearing socks, our body just absorbs all those chemicals or materials that your shoes are made out of, and because your feet then sweat, you're opening those pores again, so then everything comes in through your feet.
I'm just thinking about my Birks, they're rubber.
I know. I was thinking that when I said it. I was like, you're going to be worried about it now.
I'm going to keep wearing my socks. So if you're someone that's possibly concerned about your liver function, what are some signs or symptoms that we can look out for? Yeah,
so we touched on a few of them, but I feel like fatigue and that like really tired, lethargic, low energy is one of them, but it's a lot of gut symptoms as well. So bloating and painful bloating is definitely one I look at. Nausea after eating is a huge one. So like people like, oh, like I just feel so sick after eating. All of your senses are more heightened. So if you feel like you're a little bit more anxious or you're on edge and you're picking up on sounds and smells and all these things, like that can be a sign of a burdened liver. Trouble losing weight is also a big one. Just because like if you're not detoxing, that causes an inflammatory state within our body. So that then acne as well is a huge one.
If you're someone that doesn't drink like 2-3 litres of water a day, your kidney function's obviously not going to be working optimally.
Correct, because our kidneys are responsible for filtering urine. So and do they require like constant fluid going through it to make sure that the liver's actually healthy, or not? Not so much to make sure the liver's healthy, but to make sure our body's healthy and it is excreting those toxins.
So
the liver more looks after the kidneys.
Oh, really? So is your kidney only excreting toxins, or is that right? Excreting toxins from fluids you drink, or is it from anything?
From everything, but right. That's the way it filters it is through urine.
Right. Yeah. So they're all kind of working together.
Yeah, so then so our kidneys are responsible for filtering it via urine, our skin's involved in doing it via sweat, our lymphatic system via our lymph nodes.
So your body's just trying every way it can to just get rid of toxins.
Yeah, that's why I always tell people, especially people that are really hard on themselves, I'm like, if you only knew how hard your body was working for you at every single second. Like, because especially people that aren't so health conscious and really do pump their body full of garbage, it's like you're still standing, you're still alive, and that's because of these detoxification pathways. If you drank alcohol and you didn't have a liver to detox that for you, you would get poisoning and you would die.
Wow. So you can't obviously lose any of those vital organs.
No.
What about people who have bags? Do they go through kidneys?
Like, as in bags replacing those organs?
Oh, that's replacing their bladder, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they'd be... Oh, yeah, people have ones to replace their bladder because our bladder is just that, like, pull to hold the urine to say, like, I'm ready, and there's receptors in your bladder.
Yeah.
So that and then which sends to your brain to be like, oh, okay, I need a wee now. I'm quite full.
So what are some diseases that can be caused by not going to the toilet often?
Yeah. Oh, a really common one is, especially in women, is urinary tract infections, because our kidneys then flow into our urethra and then our bladder and we urinate. And if you're not urinating enough or you're holding onto your wee for too long to the point where it's painful, that puts strain on your bladder, then your urethra, then your kidneys, and you can get kidney dysfunction from that, because urinary tract infections can then infect your kidneys.
If your, say, liver or kidneys are working overtime because you're, consuming tap water, what is it like? Because I imagine if it's working overtime for that, then it's obviously not doing something else.
Yeah, that's like with anything in our body. If we are putting too much attention somewhere, everything else is cut off. That's like with a lot of people who, when they're eating, but they're like on their phones or they're stressed out, it's like your energy is all here. It's all in your brain, and you need to have that rest and digest to allow that blood flow to circulate through your digestive system and not be anxious or having a fight with someone or just be all up in your head, because that just shuts off your digestive system. And then people have constipation and bloating and wind and all these other gut symptoms because they're not allowing the blood flow to their gut.
So when you eat, you should be present.
Always, yeah. And a really good way to, like, I understand a lot of people like do just like they have to eat at work and they have like a limited break or something. A really good way to just like calm it down straight away is to take 3 really deep breaths into your stomach, like really try and distend your stomach when you're breathing. That really gets that blood flowing to your stomach, so then you can eat.
So if you're not, let's ask, if you're someone who's not sweating, what should they do?
Water's a huge one, like consuming enough water. But then potentially if your kidney function isn't great, you may need to add a little bit of salt to your water, like Celtic sea salt. Or
what does salt do to water? Well, why should people add salt? And can you add too much salt?
Like if you're someone that consumes like takeaway pizza and a lot of takeaway things that already contain a lot of salt, I would be like, I wouldn't do that. But someone like me or you that has like 3 home cooked meals a day, it's like I'm not adding excessive salt to the meal. So it's like absolutely add some salt to your water. And what salt does is it allows our body, our cells, to absorb that water so much better, to really hydrate your cells. Because then your cells create nerve signals throughout your body to be like, okay, like all these action potentials are happening, like let's get everything firing. So we definitely need sodium, and because sodium's an electrolyte, and electrolytes play so many functions throughout our body.
Is there salt that you wouldn't add to your water, and is there a preferred salt that you do add to water?
So I would always recommend adding Celtic sea salt to your water, because that is one of the most mineral rich. It's unrefined, which means it's like the difference between white sugar, which is just like your regular Saxa table salt, and then something like coconut or Rapadura sugar, which is less processed. It still contains all those minerals. So it has like calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, all those things that do help your cells and your nerve functioning so much better. Yeah, rather than just normal table salt.
I know some people who don't drink water all day, like they drink Coca-Cola. How are they still functioning?
That's the thing, like, and that's why our body's so amazing. Like, it will draw on, because our body is, like, we do have a lot of fluid in our body, and so it will take fluid from other areas of our body, and where we don't want it to be taken from is our brain, which is usually where it is. So people will then get headaches and stuff because we are then depriving our brain and other parts of our body of water. But if we are not replenishing that fluid, our body does become inflamed. So then, like, that's why hydration is so important for people who are concerned about weight management, because our body's like, sweet, like we can, like this water binds to these toxins so we can excrete it via our urine, and we are just decreasing the inflammatory load on our body by drinking water and flushing everything out.
And can you drink too much water? Like, what would be considered too much water in a day?
It's individual, because a lot of people, like people that consume a lot of vegetables, like there is a lot of water in vegetables and fruit and like these plant-based kind of foods. But if you're then consuming a lot of like sodium-rich foods and you're adding heaps of salt to your water, to your food, definitely drink more water to compensate for that. But if your wee is ever clear, that is a sign that you're drinking too much water. Like we don't want it clear, but we don't want it like fluoro yellow. We want it just like that pale yellow, like that's that's optimal urine.
Right. What does it mean if you have too much? Like if your urine's clear?
If your urine's clear, it's just you're then excreting too much. So because when we consume food, it has obviously a lot of nutrients and vitamins and minerals that our body needs to absorb. But if you're then drinking too much water, it's then being all excreted before it has time to integrate into our body. If someone has diarrhea, that's when we worry because it's like that's all happening far too quickly. We want a formed stool because if then there's fluid coming out with it as well, you are losing all of those electrolytes especially, but vitamins and minerals as well.
So what's a good way to rehydrate? Salt and lemon, coconut water.
Coconut water is an amazing one, full of electrolytes, which again are going to replenish magnesium stores. And yeah, magnesium is required for over 800 functions in our body. Like it is so vitally important, and we are constantly in today's society depleting our bodies of magnesium. Like every time you drink a coffee, you are depleting yourself. Every time you drink alcohol, if you have a lot of hydrogenated or oxidized fats in your diet, so like from vegetable oils like omega-6 fatty acids, fast foods, refined sugars, refined grains, all of those things really deplete our body of magnesium.
Magnesium baths for your feet. Is that because obviously our feet are absorbing feet absorb the most out of our skin, or is our palms? Or
our palms and our feet.
Our palms and our feet.
Yeah.
So the best way to absorb magnesium is through your feet?
Yeah. So, yeah, if you can't submerge your whole body in a bath, if you don't have access to a bath, then a foot bath is amazing. And you can literally put it under your desk, pop your feet in an Epsom salts bath and just, keep doing what you're doing.
Right. Yeah. And why does magnesium help you sleep better?
Magnesium upregulates serotonin being our happy, feel-good neurotransmitter. But serotonin then creates melatonin, which we need for sleep.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And how does sleep then affect the whole detoxing process? I imagine it has some impact.
Yeah. So sleep is our most restorative state, and if we are not getting adequate sleep, we are not able to aid our body in helping these body systems function optimally. So if you've ever had a really bad sleep and noticed that you're ever more hungry, it's because you don't have as much energy. And then if you're eating more, you're putting more load onto your body to then detox extra stuff that you're putting into your system. Extra food that you are then consuming. Sleep's really important for, if we're not getting adequate sleep, we increase our inflammatory markers in our body, and inflammation inhibits those detoxification pathways as well. So, yes, sleep is vital for everything.
So what I've learnt today is the reason that I now understand why we should be concerned about detoxes is because how is that juice detox actually having a beneficial impact on your kidneys, your liver, your skin, your lymphatic system,
Oh, our bowels.
And bowels. I know when I go away and do Vipassanas, people always make a comment, oh, you're going to do a detox. But it's no, I'm not doing a detox. But it's funny how people throw that word around so loosely when I suppose, what is the thing that you're doing? I think people look at it and go, okay, you're going to Vipassana to meditate, so you're having a detox from society. But that's kind of, I feel like there's probably a different word that you would use.
Yeah. And it's fine, but once you understand what detoxing actually is, you're like, oh, maybe I can find a better word.
Amazing. Well, thanks again. hope you all learn something about detoxing, and now you will ensure you're more conscious about what you're doing in your day-to-day is impacting your liver, your kidney, and the rest of your detox pathways.